All right. Ooh, they said if we can see everybody, then we're on. So I guess you all are everybody. We're here to talk about coding at the speed of thought. I'm Roy Bahat. I'm from Bloomberg Beta, which is a VC firm that was the first VC to invest in Replit. So before I ask you the real questions, and whoever just applauded there, thank you. What is this Replit thing, and how does it help us code at the speed of thought?
Replit is a software creation platform for literally everyone. It's a place where you can go with an idea. We help you to build it with AI. You don't have to have any coding skills, and you can deploy it in front of the entire world.
So I can do that, basically think of Replit as my developer, who I might have asked to build something, and ask it to build things for me.
Correct.
And this is something that's used by relatively few people at the moment. It's a kind of a hidden secret, or?
I think we recently crossed 40 million registered users.
40 million registered
40,
users.
Yep.
Okay. So, you know, you're the CEO and founder of Replit, Amjad Masad, made this comment, I think last week, which is he said, given the state of AI right now, he said, I no longer think you should learn to code. And he and I met more than 10 years ago talking about learning to code. I remember at the time, 2012, you teach at Stanford, and I sat down with the professor who for 27 years taught Stanford's intro computer science class, and he said nobody programs anymore, 10 years ago, because he said it had all gotten too easy. So if that was true then, what does Amjad mean now that nobody should learn to code?
This is a spicy one, as you can imagine. Let's take that sentence and dissect it in the following way. Maybe 99% plus of the people need to learn how to write code. And let's go in detail, the reasons why I help you to do that. I do believe that there will be always a small subset of incredibly skilled professional developers that will keep building the systems for the few years to follow. But the gist of the idea there is like similar to the transition that we had from using a pen to using a word processor. The same thing is happening gradually with code. Before you had to have skills almost full stack, like understanding how a computer works, understanding the syntax of a programming language, knowing the basics, and now you can literally vibe code, which is this new hot concept.
And so I want to ask about the skills involved in that, because I kind of think by analogies. So one of the analogies that I have, you can correct me, is I think of it like baking. In the early days of learning to code, you had to mill your own flour. You had to speak directly to the machine sometimes, literally machine language in zeros and ones. Exactly. Then it gets easier and you can buy the flour and get the recipes online and bake the bread. And now you just call up the baker and you're like, build this thing for me. And so for the user of Replit who wants to code at the speed of thought and wants to build something, is there a skill involved in telling the developer what to do? And if so, what is that?
Yeah, definitely it's a brand new skill. It doesn't require you to understand programming languages, as you said, but you need to approach, especially our system, in a different way. You can definitely code at the speed of thought. You express yourself exclusively in natural language, but you can start by saying, point by point, exactly everything that you want the system to build, and expect it to be done completely, like after hours or days. At least we are not there yet today. The level of autonomy of agents is improving, like every 6 months is doubling at this point, so you could expect this to happen in a few years. But now the muscle you have to train is making sure you break down into smaller problems and let the agent build, step by step.
Knowing how to explain it well, be crisp about what you want. Now, you use this word agent, which is one of these words that now everybody talks about and nobody quite knows what it means. In this context, what is the Replit agent?
So Replit agent is a system that goes from a natural language prompt, so similar to, I'm sure everyone in this room has used ChatGPT, but rather than giving you back a textual answer or like generating an image, we create code for you. And rather than just writing the code, we also execute it, we debug it on your behalf, and we show immediately the progress that the system is making.
Okay, so let's explore that. The Replit agent was first released how long ago?
7 months ago, September 2020.
7 months ago. So I remember using maybe a just pre-release version, and it was buggy. It was hard to use. And then yesterday on the plane, to test myself out, maybe we can put this up, I made something, probably took me less than 10 minutes of typing time, a little more time, once our friends backstage put our screenshot up on the screen. And it worked. And so while we're waiting for that to come up, what has changed in the last few months that took this thing from not working to working?
First of all, we were embarrassed when we launched it. We've been embarrassed for a while until when it was around. We don't regret it, because we learned a lot from our users. We learned what wasn't working, the assumptions we made that were wrong. But eventually what changed is a combination of AI making incredible progress in the last 6 months, and us building on top of how LLMs are becoming more powerful, and at the same time, understanding everything that didn't work with the first version and going through this very long list of fixes that we made.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll say I experienced that firsthand. For folks who can now see this up on the screen, can people see this application up on the screen? You can snap the QR code if you want to try it yourself. What I'll say is that what I made is an application that allows you to type in what you're interested in here at ASU+GSV, because this is my first time here, and I'm like running into lots of people who I adore, but then I'm like, I don't know who else is here and what we want to meet about. Put in your email address, and then it's going to use AI at the end of the conference, so early next week we'll do this, to matchmake you with whoever the person is whose interest is most similar to yours, and then it'll send you both an email and say, this is your ASU+GSV match. So made in less than 15 minutes, and for me, the aha was, okay, I can make an initial version of something. And so maybe let's just talk for a second about what are some of the limits. I mean, the first thing that I made with Replit with the help of somebody else was a bot that responded to any question you had with the most appropriate verse from Hamilton, from the musical. And so that was a pretty simple piece of software. It was kind of fun. But what's just beyond what something like a software agent can do on your behalf right now?
I think the limitation now is the fact that we have a few API paths that we provide to the users. As you said, you built a web app. We're extremely good at that. You can create data dashboards. We recently launched a stack to create video games. It's been adopted, especially by a lot of teenagers.
The kids love the video games.
There you go. We built it for him. And on the flip side, though, there are some other applications that are far more low level, maybe closer to the hardware, and we are still not great at them. Now, I want to extrapolate from this statement that Amjad gave. It doesn't mean that agents will never be able to accomplish those tasks. It's more a matter of how more powerful AI is going to become over time, and also how much time we will spend to specialize our agent on those use cases. But in all honesty, our company mission is empowering the next billion software creators. I don't expect 1 billion people out there to want to create the next scalable database system. Conversely, I expect 1 billion people wanting to create web apps and internal tools in their companies to simplify their lives.
Okay, so for those, so we have 1,000 or so of those next billion in this room. And actually, can I just ask by a show of hands, how many of you have written software before? Okay, we have like a good segment, but the vast majority of people have not, which means anybody who didn't raise your hand is now in the target market.
You should all download Replit on your phone.
Yeah.
Because we have a mobile app. You can build software, start now, by the time we get out of stage.
Oh yeah, I should say,
something.
the application that I built probably took me a total of like 12 to 15 prompts back and forth, of which the first 8 or 9 I did on the plane on my cell phone. And so, this is literally something that is possible now. So let's just talk about limits a little more. I want to build a startup. I want to build some education technology company. Should I fire all my engineers?
You should start on your own rather than
start on your own.
Yeah, start on your own.
Meaning never hire them in the first place? Perhaps.
Eventually,
okay.
Yeah, when you hit a bottleneck.
And a lot of what I've seen in a mature software company, I mean, we've invested in companies that have gone the distance. Weights and Biases, an AI infrastructure company, was just acquired by CoreWeave. That's just gone public, or announced acquisition by CoreWeave. A lot of what engineers seem to do is not build the first version of the thing. It's continuously improve the thing, make it more responsive, fix issues. What's the right way to think about that, the rest of the life cycle of a piece of software after the initial build in this agents world?
So that is why, even Daria Modei at Anthropic said, I expect the vast majority of tokens of code to be written by LLMs and not humans. Take the example of code migrations. They tend to be fairly deterministic.
So a code migration meaning I have a legacy old code base. I want to go and take it and make it modern and functional.
This one is a bit too ambitious. Let's say you want to go from COBOL to Java, that takes quite a lot of work. Say you want to update a library or a framework version. Most of them don't require, they're just tedious tasks. They require you to write a lot of code, but it's almost always the same. Like it pattern matches very easily. You can do all of this now with AI. Not supremely reliably, like not 100% reliable, but definitely you can create all the code and have a human reviewing what the AI has done.
Well, did I interrupt you? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
The line that I've heard from Eric Brynjolfsson from the Stanford economist is that AI won't replace people, but people who use AI will replace people who don't. And so I think about that with these code migrations, where we invest in a company called Mechanical Orchard that does this. And one of their observations is, if you have an ancient code base, which let me just ask, how many of you work with school systems? Okay. Yeah, their code bases tend not to have been built on this stack, not to have been built on the previous stack, but depending how far you go, sometimes the stacks are decades old and there are very few living developers who know COBOL, let's say. But the AI doesn't care. It can go back as old as you want. And so the question that I have for you is, for the software engineers who are the most empowered at using these AI tools, how do they operate now differently from how they operated 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 2 years ago? What's changed for those developers?
A couple of things. I think they're seeing the productivity going up pretty much on a weekly basis, and it's a function of models, LLMs becoming better, and also engineers learning how to interact with AI better, like at the right time.
The bicycles are getting better, and we are learning how to ride the bicycles.
The engineers are trained on the bicycle even more. And at the same time is also which additional tools are available in their tool set. So for example, I can write a web app on my own, but why wouldn't I do that on Replit Agent? It's going to save me time. And now I can do 10 of them in parallel.
Well, and you made this comment at one of your Stanford talks about how the agents have shown you as a professional, Dr. Catasta, PhD developer and researcher, the agents have taught you things. And so what have you learned from the agents in working with them?
I think my thought process when I write software is much different from how agents behave. The way in which they're debugging, especially the Replit Agent V2, which we launched literally a month ago in preview, as a way of debugging of funding problems or creating shortcuts that sometimes I can't even think of myself.
Got it. So it's proposing solutions to you that you may not have seen, and fundamentally thinking differently about it. I mean, for those of you who make software, one of the analogies that I heard, or explanations of this moment, and I'm just curious if you agree, we've spent a lot of time in the tech industry moving from so-called waterfall development to agile development. Waterfall, I specify the requirements up front, and then somebody goes off and builds the thing, and it was seen to be a brittle way to build because there weren't enough feedback loops built in, and you could go off track pretty quickly. Whereas agile, you check in once every 2 weeks, let's say, you do rapid sprints. It seems like AI may have broken this, that in some ways we're back to waterfall development, except that the developer team can then go and take your requirements and build it in 10 minutes instead of in 10 months. Does that land with you or no?
It's a very short waterfall, though.
A short waterfall.
Yes.
I love that.
It's like a small hop.
And I guess, the short waterfall is pretty similar from being quite agile in the sense that now 2 weeks seems like an eternity to build.
Yeah, it's agile by definition. It moves fast. You just think few steps ahead. And then when you see the new artifact that you created, that's when you make decisions of what you want to do after.
That makes sense. Okay, I'm going to ask you one or two more questions about the present, and then we'll move to the future. The wide range of users of software agents building on their behalf, and with Replit in particular, what has surprised you about what people are building? Is there some example or two of something where you just thought, wow, never would have occurred to me?
We talk about COBOL for a reason that I still don't know why, but now I have to bring an example from
COBOL,
there.
just for folks who don't know, is an ancient programming language. It's basically written on stone tablets kind of stuff.
All your money is being moved by COBOL as we speak. Banks are using it predominantly. So we have a company, a very large one, that is adopting Replit Agent, and their entire software system was built in COBOL. Now, rather than hiring a lot of professional software engineers to go from COBOL to Java, they're just taking a huge leap, like jumping over 2-3 different eras and building the new stack directly with Replit Agent. It was the most fascinating enterprise use case that I heard of. Rather than trying to rewrite line by line. They take the core functionality of their software and they just rewrite it from scratch with the agent because they can move really fast.
I love that. And there's been a lot of talk about solopreneurs and their uses for this. 1 billion creators means many of those people are going to be working on their own. In 2015, I wrote an essay called The One-Person Billion-Dollar Startup. I don't think we've quite gotten there yet, although we're still waiting on it. What do you see individuals building using these kinds of tools as opposed to what organizations are doing?
A bit of everything, ranging from consumer apps, they try to go viral or like they offer services at large. And these are people that are already making like 6-figure ARR easily. And it's probably their third, fourth side business in life. And at the same time, we also see people building internal tools in their companies. And it's very interesting, they adopt Replit because they heard of it through word of mouth or on social. They build a prototype, their colleagues check them, and then all of a sudden they just explode internally.
Yeah, I think it was first from Amjad that I heard the expression personal software.
Yeah.
And so what is personal software as part of that?
So personal software is, imagine your phone. Each single app has been built by someone else. And I think most of them you install them. You might use 1 or 2 features for each one. They're not customized towards your need. Now thinking of rebuilding all of them based on your own personal needs. That's the vision where we're going towards.
Is that I will make my own software just for me, and that's completely okay. And in a sense, a custom GPT can be like that. I mean, the tools are starting to allow this. Okay, now let's just turn while we have a few more minutes to the future. It seems like things are changing really fast right now. I mean, we had in our portfolio, I think it was a week or two ago, an emergency meeting because in the last month, so many new tools had come out that the founders of tech startups, venture-backed founders, because they're backed by us, had to have an emergency meeting to discuss this. So when you think about what's about to change, as I look ahead for the next few weeks and months, what's changing right now?
I would say 2 things. One is the level of autonomy is steadily climbing over time.
The level of autonomy, what does that mean?
Of agents. So the fact that you can assign a task to them, and not only they're becoming more reliable, but they can also work on a longer horizon. So they can fulfill something, and maybe the first agent we launched was working for a couple of minutes in a row at most. Now you can launch Replit Agent V2, and it's going to take 15, 20 minutes to complete an entire task. And I expect this to go to 1 hour plus by the end of the year.
Got it. So it can go off on its own with a longer leash.
Yeah, so much more ambitious in terms of what it can accomplish.
Okay.
And at the same time, also there will be an horizontal expansion where agents can be applied. They all started from low-stakes environment. Like, I do hope no one is building healthcare patient record on Replit Agent yet. There are all these aspects.
Not quite ready for life or death consequences without being checked by somebody.
Exactly. But I think there are a lot of low-stakes apps that can be built, that can be customized, that can be personalized, which you can do with agents today, and it's going to happen more and more.
Yeah, I mean, low stakes, and that's sort of how I thought about the ASU+GSV matchmaking app, which, by the way, if you didn't get the URL, it's just ASU+GSV 2025.replit.app.
Yeah.
And, low stakes things. There was this idea, and I'll just get a little philosophical in this question. There was this idea that as people started playing, making things for themselves, making toys, making applications that their sports team might use, or their school might use, or just their classroom might use, there was this idea, that dream goes back to the early days of the internet, almost, that people would be empowered. I remember that New Yorker cartoon that said on the internet, nobody knows you're a dog, where a dog is browsing the internet. And I think the implication there was that it would be better for everybody and democratize things and make us more equal to each other. And it doesn't seem like the internet has done that. Do you think that this next phase will feel more egalitarian or be more egalitarian, or will it bring us more of the same? And how do you think about that?
I strongly believe that, and not even based on coding agents, which of course I care very much about, but think of how LLMs are being embraced and adopted. I think as of now, ChatGPT has 400 million weekly active users. It's a democratized technology. Like most of the IL tech usually works in a top-down fashion. It goes like from government, it goes from very rich companies, and eventually it gets in the hands of everyone. LLMs are incredibly, a democratizing factor, and the same is going to happen with.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when Web 2 started, it was, okay, instead of being broadcast to you, you can now interact with these applications. It's almost like Web squared now in the sense that you can create and build the applications. So folks should download the Replit app from the App Store and try it. Anything else they should do before we wrap?
Build an app, come to find me in the hallway in case you need any help.
Well, thank you for the research you started long before it was cool. And now, if this is what cool is, then we're cool. And now 1 billion more people can try it, thanks in part to the work of Replit. So thank you very much, and thanks everybody for being here, and I hope you build things.
Thank you.